Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. We are on YouTube. We're Familia. Please make sure to give us a subscribe because you know what? Do it for us because it's Cinco de Mayo. Yes, Cinco de Mayo. Remember, everybody, anybody who's out there, if you're not Latino, remember one thing. Mexican Independence Day. It was a battle against France. Mexican Independence Day is September 16th. Another reason to go drink Mexican beer, which I've got one here. Salud. But everybody, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And we're a proud member of the Fantasy Points Media Group. So make sure you're entering the promo code Familia22, or if you're doing it in Spanish, Familia22, you get 10% off your subscription of Fantasy Points, where you get, the NFL Prospect Guide. We're going to be talking about rookies right here, and you're going to have some of the best analysis anywhere from NFL Films. Greg Cosell, he's still dropping some great content from some of the best fantasy minds anywhere. You got John Hansen, Graham Barfield, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, Tom, Wes Huber, and amigo of the show, Edwin Porras. You get strengths, you get weaknesses, you get transition to the NFL, you get everything. You get subscription to fantasypoints.com, where you get some of the best analysis in season, where for redraft, DFS, everything. You've got it all. So again, Familia 22, Familia 22. Get your subscription, get that promo code. So otra vez, Feliz Cinco de Mayo, familia. We survived the NFL draft, so salute to all of us for not letting the hype. We had some great landing spots, some not so great landing spots. Jahan Dotson. So I thought I'd bring in a couple return guests, some buen amigos to the show who have been nails on their draft coverage. Starting out, I'm not shy, familia, about saying that I have voice envy from a few people, and this is one of them. He's maybe the 101. He has been in fuego with his own coverage on the Lateral Show. He's a writer, editor, sound god for Fantasy Pros, and the newest member of the Devi Royale. Bienvenido to, remember that accent, Herms.
CC. Hola. Yes. Oh, dude, thank you so much for having me on this show. So much to go over, man. The whole draft, the 3 days of just a whirlwind, crazy stuff, and honestly, even some of the undrafted free agents, like the rookies signing those deals after the draft. So much to go over. I'm so excited. Oh gosh.
So on fire. Yeah, I tell you. And our next guest is also. He's so cool that Howie Roseman asked to take pictures with him. That's right. Yeah, he's that guy. He's also the guy that he listened to finally draft a linebacker, not a couple of podcasters that we talked about. But yeah, you know what? He did listen also when this guy said, "Get me a wide receiver." He went out and got him AJ Brown. He's the co-host of the Champions Round with amiga of the show, Steffi Smalls, and he's a contributor in Between Media. We know him as Eagle Dan FF, but you know what, familia? He is el buen amigo, Dan Turner. Bienvenido, Dan. How are you?
Good. It's wonderful to be here. ¿Cómo estás a todos? It's great. We all survived the draft. We all got that draft hangover. And I'm really looking forward to rehashing it with a couple of really good friends of mine on Cinco de Mayo. So I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be. So let's get on with this and let's do it.
Yeah. And I'm toasting you, mis amigos. I'm toasting you because it's a great day. I'm wearing my Team Mexico hat from the World Baseball Classic. So salud to you. But yeah, it's Cinco de Mayo, and it's just a little bit of a background on today. Today means a lot to the Familia FFB podcast because not only is it Cinco de Mayo, but it's also the 2-year anniversary of when we launched this show. This is episode 252. It was kind of like a fun COVID project. So as we all remember where we were 2 years ago, and you know what? A couple of my primos wanted to jump on to, kind of talk and argue, fantasy football. It's just, it's been a blast. I've been able to make a lot of friends in the industry. These two amigos are two of them. But yeah, it's crazy to think. está loco, muy loco to think that we're here, 252 episodes. And you know what? Ain't going because, now the folks in Fantasy Pros believed in us to have us join the Fantasy Points Media Group. But man, it's awesome. And, Dan, I touched on it a second ago. I know your feet have hardly touched the ground after the draft. So I wanted to start with you. What was it like that you liked the most about the draft for starting specifically with your beloved Eagles?
So there are a couple of things that I really liked about the draft. As most people know, we had 3 first-round picks going into the draft. So we took one of them and moved it on to next year, which was supposed to be like a more talented class than this year. So that's a move I really liked with the Saints. And then, trading one of the other first-round picks for A.J. Brown was something I didn't see coming. Honestly, it was phenomenal. It was awesome. It gives the Eagles, their best receiver since T.O. back in 2004.
Wow.
Pairing Brown with Devontae Smith, that's something that we haven't had in Philly in a long time, and that's a really good wide receiver group, if ever, honestly. So it'd be really exciting to see. It's time for to see what Jalen Hurts is made of now. He has no more excuses. He has one of the best O-lines in the league, a really good receiving core, and good running back. So it's on him to lead us. We go as well as high as he does now. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited that for some godforsaken reason, Nakobe Dean fell to round 3 for us to scoop up, because that was just insane that he fell that far. I mean, even if he had missing a leg, I think he thought he would go higher than the 3rd round. But overall, I think we just did a really solid job. We didn't try to be cute. We didn't draft Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson again. So I was really happy about that. So just overall, a really solid job by the Eagles and Howie Roseman.
Yeah, that one was Nakobe Dean. I remember when they showed him on they showed highlights of him after. It's like it looked like he was going at a different speed than everybody else, which was just, I was like, how did this guy last till this point? So I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Did they hit every note for you?
No, I think, there's still some questions in the secondary. We need a CB2 across from Darius Slay, and we could use an upgrade at pretty much at both safety spots. We did sign an undrafted rookie from Middle Tennessee State, Reed Blankenship, who had a draftable grade, but I would have liked to have, more of a veteran presence in the back end. And obviously you can't, fill every single hole, but I wish we had done a little bit more to do in the secondary than we did.
Yeah. Herms. So I want to find out. Kenny Pickett leading off, which and then it was just a Grand Canyon until the quarterbacks kept going. But I want to know, what did you think about the Steelers draft? Did you, number one, did you like that Kenny Pickett pick? And with 2 wide offensive linemen, picked in the draft, were you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, during night 1, I was really not that thrilled about the Kenny Pickett selection, because I was just like, well, what are you doing? Is this like up at the ceiling? We could have had Malik Willis. Oh, God. Just out here just sounding like a whiny Jerry Seinfeld about it. And then, you realize, oh, what? No quarterbacks in the 2nd round? Okay, this is weird. Okay, all right, now we're into the 3rd. Oh, so that's what the NFL thinks of these quarterbacks. And I'm not gonna question their judgments. I mean, all 32 of these teams have entire staffs of people whose only job it is to watch these players, evaluate them, and you know what I mean. So if Kenny Pickett is the one that was worthy of a 1st round pick, then who am I to question the NFL? At that point, I'm like, okay, I get it, whatever, totally fine. I mean, he has a perfectly safe floor, in my opinion, whereas, the range of outcomes for all the other quarterback prospects, we knew that it was going to be a little weird. Either, because, for example, Malik Willis, who I kind of was hoping they were going to end up taking, but clearly didn't. Best case scenario, it's like, okay, well, he's got this rocket arm, he's incredibly fast, but there's also a world in which he washes out of the league in 3 years if he can't figure out some of the decision making. So it's like, I get it. Pickett is a guy that you walk in, he's like, I don't know, maybe a realistic, assuming he doesn't hit his absolute ceiling for potentials, like Andy Dalton or something like that, like Cincinnati Andy Dalton, not the Andy Dalton we've seen the last few years. But like, like that's not bad, And I think honestly, my favorite part of the draft is like not only George Pickens but also Calvin Austin. I mean, like the receiver core is something that I was really hoping they were going to be able to address, because after Juju Smith-Schuster left, and after Ray McLeod left, and James Washington ended up moving on, and especially it's something that I think a lot of fantasy football diehards get, a little messed up in their head. It's just like, well, what did they need some of that for? I mean, they got Deontay Johnson, they got Chase Claypool. It's like, yes, but it's a wide receiver core. It is a core of players, because after that, I don't know. Like, I gotta say, and we're gonna talk about it as we, keep going on, but like George Pickens specifically, that selection just, it's so on brand for the Steelers to take a chance on a guy like that, and I am absolutely here for it. And just to wrap up my thoughts, at least as far as the offensive line stuff goes, I feel okay with how it was addressed in last year's draft in terms of guys that were going to take time to develop, and then also some free agent acquisitions, including James Daniels, formerly of the Chicago Bears. He should be fine. He's a guy that I think very highly of. He's still incredibly young for somebody that's been in the league for 4 years. So it's like, yeah, I think it's a long-term solution for the offensive line. It's not something that needed to be fixed right now, right away, but enough steps have been taken to the point where, I mean, the defense was already really good. They made some good signings to bolster that, and all the draft did was just make the offense better. So I'm here for it. I think Pickett has a good chance to possibly beat out Mitch Trubisky in camp for the starting job. And if not, maybe by November or something, we get to see what the rookie has in store.
That's probably, I mean, I'm very intrigued by him, and we'll talk about him in a second because of where he's falling in rookie rankings is just, adios mío. It's plenty local.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We got a couple bits of news that I'd love to get your guys' reaction to it. First, Hopkins getting a 6-game suspension for PEDs. Who do we see stepping up to kind of take a more prominent role? Is it going to be Hollywood, Rondell Moore, Zach Ertz, AJ Green? Yeah, Dan, you got any ideas on this one?
Yeah, I do. Well, the obvious answer is obviously Hollywood Brown, because it was fortuitous that they traded for him, and then like 5 minutes later, Hopkins goes out, so he'll easily be the number one receiver there. But I think someone that that was actually just drafted was Trey McBride, and that's someone that isn't being talked about a lot. But I think that he could actually be the biggest beneficiary about this, because you can start him right away. You can have him and Ertz on the field at the same time. He's really the most athletic tight end in the draft. So I think that, with the draft capital that he got and how high they picked him, and I was surprised because, they had just re-signed Ertz to a pretty decent deal. And then to still go ahead and take McBride, it tells me that, they have a plan for him. They have a plan, to get him on the field early. And not having Hopkins is probably accelerates that, and he gets on the field, even earlier than we probably thought.
You got any ideas, Herms, on this one?
I mean, we saw it plenty when they were both at Oklahoma in college. I mean, Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown. I mean, we already know it works. So I mean, I don't see why anything. Well, I mean, obviously it's been a few years since they played together, but like, yeah, I mean, they were great once upon a time. Like the fact that there's already a working relationship between the two of them. I mean, I can't imagine so much time has passed from when they last played together and now that they don't like the physical rapport and being able to read what the other person's doing. Like, I don't know, it's just like, like if I go over to one of my buddies' house that I used to be in a band with, like a few years ago, like if we sit down, pick up our instruments and start playing one of our songs, we're going to remember how it goes. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it's been a while, but that's still drilled into the back of your brain there. I think it'll be perfectly fine. That trade. And like you said, Dan, I mean, like, honestly, just like the timing, just like it's unfortunate, especially because, I mean, I'm beginning to get a little bit concerned about how much longer Cliff Kingsbury has his job, because, it's been a lot of, start the season super well and then things kind of just fall off. And it's like, oh, gosh, well, what did they, I mean, everything they had to do to even bring in Kyler Murray, because you had to flush the Josh Rosen pick down the toilet. You had to completely,
Yep.
revamp the offense, do all this stuff. I mean, like time's, kind of running out for you there, buddy. I mean, hey, you gotta get this show rolling. But before I'm not going to go too much deeper into that. But all that aside, Hollywood Brown, just excellent addition for that offense, excellent addition for Kyler Murray, and hopefully that makes him happy enough to want to show up to camp. So,
I do love the Hollywood Brown pick, and you guys nailed it. I think it's going to be him. I don't see anybody else. I will say Ertz did have a good connection with him for part of the season, so he might get some of that underneath stuff that might have gone to D Hop. So I'm looking for that one a lot. A couple of undrafted free agents, UDFAs. Carson Strong going to the Eagles. Dan, what's thoughts on that one? Is that one intriguing? That one just happened today.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I didn't. One, it was a surprise that he wasn't drafted at all. I feel like even if as Herms mentioned, a lot of teams were down on these quarterbacks. The fact that he wasn't even worth a 7th round pick by somebody is really surprising. I think that if we all know about his knee problems, how his knees basically held together by duct tape at this point in life. But if medical gets cleared, you can bring him along. You have Minshew, you have Hurts. This guy he has the talent to be a starting quarterback. He does. In terms of talent alone, he can throw it all over the field. He's a good decision maker. He has to transition from the air raid offense of Nevada to like the pro game. But I think this is a situation where you can bring him along as a number 3. And when he's ready, if you need him to get him, I'm not saying he has a chance to be like an All-Pro or something because he was undrafted, but as far as shots taken on quarterback, which as we all know is the most important position in the league, there's nothing wrong with taking a shot at him as the number 3 quarterback and see what he has to offer us.
Oh, I love it. And Herms, you got any thoughts on that one?
I mean, he's a tall guy with a rocket arm. Why not? And I did see that I don't know if the details have changed since I last saw this information, but I think what was it, like a $300,000 like base salary, like a $20K signing bonus. Like, if I recall, whatever the source was for that information, I think it's like the largest UDFA deal that has like ever happened. So it's like, I mean, that kind of says something at the very least. It could be interesting, I mean, we see these types of players, every few draft cycles where it's just like, you understand like the prototypical size, the prototypical arm, and then, the rest is so much up in the air. And most of the time, these guys don't achieve very much. But, I mean, there's something to be said for a player that can work his butt off to be able to stick around holding a clipboard for the next however many years. So, I mean, even if that's all he ever does, I mean, like, that's a paycheck. That's success. So
Chase Daniel, Matt Moore, those guys.
Exactly. So it's like, hey, you know what? Like, more power to him. I don't know that he ever becomes a starter, but and it's something that I like to say all the time, especially when it comes to like fantasy football stuff. Like, I love being wrong, because when I'm wrong, it means that a human being has achieved their dreams and they are successful. So, like, there's nothing better in the world than being wrong about a football player achieving their dreams. So, like, more power to him. I hope it works out.
Awesome. So, next one is Justin Ross. I mean, another player with injury concerns, and some doctors have said that he shouldn't play, and the Chiefs took a chance on him, which makes me just fired up about the possibility. And I mean, he's someone that we could be talking about tonight. He is in the top 50 on rookie rankings on Fantasy Pros. What, Herms, what are you thinking on that one? Could you take a late round flyer on him?
I mean, if it's one of my last picks and I'm somebody picking toward like the very end or something, like maybe, but even then I would prefer to take Justin Ross off of the waiver wire and just assume that he's not going to get drafted in a rookie draft, because it's like, I don't want to be the person, even if it is like a 3rd or a 4th round rookie pick, to just flush it straight down the toilet, like, and not to say that selecting Justin Ross is necessarily doing that, but it's more likely to be a waste than it would be for some of these other players without some sort of, neck fusion spine surgery. You know what I mean? Like, it's either going to go super well or he's never going to do anything. Anything in between, I don't know if there is anything in between, to be perfectly honest. The range of outcomes really is that big because of the severity of the injury. Like, I, heard whispers that there were some teams that would even be worried about the liability for letting him play football if anything happened to him. It's true of every athlete that you're only one hit away from your life changing, but when you have that much of a greater added risk already baked in, I don't know. He's such a curious case. I'm probably not going to touch it. That's just my thing. But I don't blame anybody who does, because, there were certain times there. And it wasn't even just that. I mean, I think, he had COVID that kept him out for, a vast majority of one season. And then I can't remember what the other injury was. But, it's not the only thing that's ever kept him off the field. But if he's anything like he was when he was catching passes from Trevor Lawrence, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, like, dude, I mean, this guy, when everything's right, he's a baller. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
How about you, Dan? Are you apt to take a chance on him?
No. And I'm not a doctor or whatever, but I don't think that he should play. I think that having that kind of defect that he has in his neck, like, obviously nowhere on your spine is a good place to have, to be injury prone, but to have the bones fuse in his neck, like, and the fact that, guys still take headshots in the league. They take headshots. So I just don't want him to, be so focused on his dream. And I know it's, I'm not saying, give up on your dream. I just think, like, long term, if he gets hit the wrong way, like, it's not going to be like, just like a torn ACL or something like that. The neck area is a serious thing. Like, we all know that. So I would rather he didn't play. I would feel better. I won't be taking a chance on him because I don't know. I don't think that, he'll hold up. And part of me doesn't want him to. Part of me wants him to decide, that, like, his health is more important, and leave the game, like, active playing. But I won't take a chance on him. I know, like Herm said, I don't blame anyone that does. I think that, the Justin Ross that we got from Klinsman in his freshman year when he had 1,000 yards, and he was going to be, wide receiver one in all of fantasy, that guy just doesn't exist anymore. And I know people, wish that he was, but he's just not that player. I don't think he can be, and it's not through any fault of his own. But he's it's a really popular name. It worries me that he wasn't drafted at all. And some teams are even worried about liability, like Herm said. So I won't personally be drafting him. No.
Yeah, I liked Herm's idea of, maybe grabbing him off the waiver wire. You've got you've got your picks for the fourth round, and then, if you got an extra taxi or something like in the dynasty rankings, grab him there. And redraft, definitely, he's. I mean, we're going to see the whole summer come through, and then see what happens to him, to his ADP when it comes to the redraft side. But today we're talking about guys that are higher ranked. Right now, I mean, Ross, I think he's number 43 on pros, but we're talking about rookie rankings, and I've intentionally avoided a lot of NFL coverage, a lot of NFL draft coverage. Herms, you and Bo were great when we talked a little bit of free agency, and no, I'm sorry, when we talked about the NFL Combine reactions, and Jeff Bell came on to talk about that, and and about his early NFL draft rankings, which he and I talked it back on February 1st, which a lot of those really stayed the same last week. And, Dan, you've had so much, you got to go to the Senior Bowl and everything. But so let's kind of start with kind of the top 10 rankings a little bit. Again, this is Fantasy Pros rookie rankings. Brees Hall is the consensus number one. Herms, I'm going to start with you. Who would you have as his biggest competition, or is he kind of alone on his tier?
I mean, it's pretty much him. I mean, maybe you could make the case for Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver that ended up going to the Jets. I mean, he's such a versatile guy that he can line up all across the formation. And they're like, honestly, just real quick, pulling over the car because both players on the Jets. Wow, like, dude, what a draft they had. Sheesh, I mean, incredible. But anyhow, pulling the car back onto the road, like, it's such a bizarre class that I think if you are saddled with that first pick, it behooves you to take what is probably the safest asset of all of them. Because for as much as people really enjoyed what Michael Carter brought to the table when healthy last year, he was only ever the B back in a committee at North Carolina with Javonte Williams. And, it was well within the realm of possibility that either through free agency or the draft, like they did, they were going to bring in another piece to that backfield. It's part of the reason that I ended up trading every single Michael Carter share I had in Dynasty before the draft, because I kind of, it's one of those things where it's like I felt the potato getting hot in my hand, so I passed it off to somebody else. Brees Hall has all the skills of a 3-down back, and with what should be a continuing to improve. Words are hard. What should be a better offensive line as time goes along, with Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker, previous investments that they've made with draft picks. Like, I mean, they've really got something going. I think that, if you're somebody holding that first pick, the safest thing you can possibly do is that guy. I guess there are some of the wide receivers, his teammate I mentioned, maybe if you really wanted to, try and justify that, sure. But I think it's got to be Brees Hall. Oh, no.
You're muted.
Okay. Now it worked. Now it's working. Dan, who do you see as Brees Hall's main competition?
Probably Treylon Burks. I think that shipping AJ Brown out of there and then immediately taking his replacement with the same pick. I think he has the least amount of competition for targets in that offense. Drake London is someone too, but he has Kyle Pitts. Burks is already probably the best receiver on the Titans offense. I know Robert Woods is there, but he's getting older. He's coming off an injury, so I think that with Burks there and they took Willis, so Burks and Willis can, if Willis makes and they grow up together and they have that connection. I think that I would agree that Brees Hall is the one, but his biggest competition, I would take Burks at one if I had to.
I love the Burks talk because you're right. I mean, because when the NFL season comes around in September, Robert Woods is going to be about 10 months past his own ACL injury. So, I mean, that's kind of like at the very, very early part of when they might be ready. So he might be out, and Treylon Burks might be running unopposed for several weeks. So that's a great one. I had Wilson just because of the fact that if Zach Wilson takes that major step forward that sometimes quarterbacks take when they are the real deal, I think between him and Elijah Moore special. But I love the takes. I love the takes all along. I mean, Brees Hall is going to be is so good, but it's one of those things that, when you're talking about dynasty, to have one of those receivers that could be around for a long time, just too special. So, staying in the top 10, Dan, is there a player you think is getting a little bit overheated on the hype?
Okay. So I didn't really like this player a lot before the draft. And the landing spot was good. He has a good landing spot, but I just don't believe in him personally, and that's Drake London. I think London is a lot was made about like his separation issues and contested catching in college and stuff. So I just need to see him, translate that into the pros for me to believe in him. And Kyle Pitts is always going to be the number one target there, I think, as long as he's there. So he's already, starting at number 2. And I don't know how good Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder is going to be, at quarterback for them. So that's also a question mark. I mean, Ryan Tannehill isn't Patrick Mahomes, but at least, you know what you're getting from him. So I think that, having Drake London at number 2 in the rankings is a little bit high. I take Wilson over him. I take Burks. So I wouldn't drop him down too much, but I think, number 2 is a little too high for Drake London.
Yeah, I mean, I love London, but man, that one seems a lot, to be number 2 or number 3 on that one. It's a big number. How about you, Herms?
I hate to be that guy, but the Sky Moore thing, I'm just
No.
I can't do it for many reasons. I'll start at the top. Replacing Tyreek Hill, quote unquote. There's no replacing Tyreek Hill. Like, there are certain, yes, I understand theoretically, somebody has to replace the number 1 receiver, but this idea that the Chiefs' number 1 receiver is this premium thing, we don't actually know that, because to replace Tyreek Hill is to find another transcendent, game-breaking talent that can do the exact same thing. And because I really don't see Sky Moore doing that, the Chiefs' offense is going to change. It is going to look different. We see it all the time with, impact players leave, and they have to rework the scheme of the offense to account for the fact, okay, well, we don't have that guy to do that special thing anymore. And even then, I mean, it's going to run through Travis Kelce primarily.
Yeah.
That's going to be the first target in the offense. Then we look at other things they did this offseason. Well, Juju Smith-Schuster, yes, I mean, my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, for some reason, he was never a yak guy. I don't understand why they ran him out of the slot for 2 seasons in a row, but I think the Chiefs aren't dumb enough to do that, and they're going to put him in a proper role. That's 2 guys. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I mean, if you look under the hood of that 3-year contract, it's really just like a 1-year, $8 or $9 million deal.
Yeah.
But, he's done plenty, that's something too. And then also, assuming that backfield works out the way that I think it's going to, Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably going to be somebody that's going to be in line as a pass-catching running back. Those are 4 players. Count them, 4. I got my, I've had the fingers up the whole time to really illustrate that point, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Sky Moore has to work from there. You know what I mean? I understand. Yes, it's good draft capital. I'll give him that. He's a talented player. Analytically speaking, his profile, I get it. I understand the appeal. Sure, but that's a tough road. It wouldn't be that inconceivable for him to work his way above Marquez Valdes-Scantling as the season evolves. Sure, I mean, I'm not the biggest believer in him in the world necessarily. I mean, he's a prototypical size and speed, sure, whatever, but hands like bricks. Kelce and Juju aren't going to go anywhere necessarily, and if the Chiefs had taken somebody in the first round with one of those picks and gone with a little bit more of one of those prospects I felt a little better about, or even if they had found a way to settle on George Pickens, again, a name I'm going to bring up again. But I would feel better. I would feel better about it. But I don't know, the prospect darling of Sky Moore going to the mystical, magical landing spot of the Chiefs, it feels entirely too good to be true. And we're just talking ourselves into this being a thing. Oh, it's going to smash. It's absolutely going to be fabulous. Picking him, middle of the first round, toward the back. No. I'm not going to be that guy. I will probably end up with 0 shares of Sky Moore. Not because I think he's horrible, not because I think it's a bad landing spot, because obviously it's great. But my enthusiasm is not going to be at the level of other people's. I know that to be true.
Yeah, number 8, that's just too rich for my blood. I'll take. I mean, I don't think I'm picking. I don't think I'm picking before number 8. I'll let somebody else take the chance.
Yeah.
We got the second round. We're starting to see some running backs: James Cook, Rashad White, Damian Pierce climbing. Because of the draft capital and the landing spot. Do you, Herms? I'm going to start with you. Do you agree with these players being in this zone, and would you move any of them up or down?
I mean, some of these guys. So what really has me worried with these running backs, and this is something that my colleague at the Debbie Royale, Kevin Coleman, tweeted out earlier, if I remember correctly. This draft class it's a lot of guys that are going to be Michael Cartered next year. If we look ahead to the 2023 class, I mean, I know we just got finished watching the 2022 draft. Herms, why are you talking about next year's class already? Because you have to think about these things. Those guys are incredible. A lot of those guys are absolutely incredible. So you have to be really sure that honestly, thinking of these guys as 1 year investments for the most part. I think James Cook maybe being the best exception to that rule, however. I guess I'm just going to go off from there and talk about him because he's the one that I picked. Yeah, dude, and I've seen a lot of people make the case. It's oh, well, he's a little smaller. I don't know that he's going to be able to hold up his the workload because, less than 200 pounds. It's what did he come in at 199 or something? I mean, just spot the guy a pound. Jeez, what? It's fine, okay? It's totally cool. And him working in tandem with Devin Singletary is going to be fascinating. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to distribute that load early in the season, but it became apparent as time went along and Zach Moss continued to be a healthy scratch. It's okay, well, we gave up on that. Matt Breida was a blip on the radar for a little bit. Okay, whatever. It's really, and Devin Singletary was never really going to be built to shoulder that much of a load anyway. So, they're going to be an interesting complement, duo running out of one of the NFL's best offenses. It's going to be a little bit weird for, red zone opportunity because their goal line back is also their quarterback. But I mean, I feel best about him of any of them. Also, let's not forget his brother's pretty good. The Cook genes.
Newsflash on that one.
Yeah, hey, breaking news. Something's going right in that gene pool. So yeah, I mean that's probably the one honorable mention to Dameon Pierce, just because you kind of just look at the Texans' backfield and you're ugh. So probably wouldn't be that hard for him to carve out opportunity, and opportunity is everything. Volume is volume, and volume is king. But my long-winded answer, the only one that I really feel good about having more than just a 1 year impact would be James Cook.
Love it. Yeah, he's about the same size as Austin Eckler. How about you, Dan?
Well, Herms, teed this up for me pretty well. I'm going to go with someone that I, watched at the Senior Bowl, that he easily the best running back at the Senior Bowl. Someone that I really like, and as Herms mentioned, he goes into the backfield where his primary competition is, a 37-year-old Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack, who has one leg, and it's Dameon Pierce. He goes into a really good situation where he can go in and immediately, compete for snaps. I mean, there's really nothing in front of him that should stop him from starting, honestly. I know that I understand the concern about, these guys being, Michael Carter next year. But I think that, even if the Texans were to use a high pick on a running back next year, I think Pierce would still have a role going forward anyway. I think, he's a tremendous athlete. Everyone wants to complain about, how he never, had as many carries as other running backs at Florida. And I'm just saying, well, that means he has less tread on his tires, doesn't it? So he's healthier and he's fresher than every other running back that's coming out. And that's how I see it. So I think, just because he didn't do it at Florida doesn't mean he can't. I think that, he was pass blocking better than some offensive linemen at the Senior Bowl. So pass blocking is how you get on the field as a rookie, and he's going to do that. So, and that's something that we have to consider too. He can catch the ball. He has good vision. So I really expect him to be up there come draft time, and to have him at 16 in tier 4 is a little too low for me. I made him probably higher on him than other people, but I'd move him at least 5 spots higher.
I'm with you. He is one of my, after Hall and Walker, I think I might have Pierce as my next favorite guy, because he's just because of the opportunity, and I love his running style. Love his running style. I think it's a friend of our amigo of the show, Bo McBrayer. He compared it to Marion Barber, and I just right on. Just Right on.
Mhm.
I don't love the one thing I don't love. I think Rashad White might be a little overheated because I think Leonard Fournette's going to be in a he's going to be the lead caballo, the bell cow running back in that one. I think that just might be, too much. I think he might be coming down a little bit. But one guy who I don't know if it's right if he's coming down, if he could come down. It's the quarterback position, Kenny Pickett. Now we already talked about it a little bit with Herms, but Dan, I'm going to have you lead off. Even in Superflex, are you tempted to take him higher than that? He's quarterback. He's number 18 overall in rookie drafts right now.
Yes, that's the middle of the second round. I'm taking him in the back of the first round. I don't know what everyone is doing here that he's lasting until the middle of the second round in Superflex. I mean, I get it. Like the quarterback class, wasn't great, but he got taken in the first round for a reason. So it's he steps in and just look at this. He has Najee Harris, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Calvin Austin, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, all those guys. Throwing that is literally the best situation that a quarterback has ever walked into as a rookie offensively. And everyone has, some questions about the offensive line, but Kenny has shown that, he can move around in the pocket and deliver. So, Pittsburgh knows how to develop quarterbacks. They know what they're going to do what they need to do to protect him. He should beat out Mitch Trubisky. So it's not like Mitch Trubisky is this giant, wall that's going to stop him from starting because let's be honest, it's Mitch Trubisky. So I don't, if you're going to tell me that I'm going to, be able to get Kenny Pickett in the middle of the second round, I'm drafting him every single draft I'm in, every single one, and thanking people and saying, all right, cool, see you later. That's a gift. He should be at the very least a late, 110 to 112 first round pick at the very least. And the fact that he isn't is just insane to me. Insane.
Ooh, I'm getting all overheated down here on the other coast. How about you, Herms? You want to clean up on that one?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it before we hit the record button on this show, so I'll just kind of reiterate a lot of those points with less colorful language. We did this last year. The Mac Jones, we did this. We did, and it was like, oh well, the ceiling's not very high, and it's okay. Well, he got first round draft capital, and the biggest difference this time is that Pickett was the only one with first round draft capital. Let alone the only person to be selected within the first 2 rounds. Okay, 2, not just 1, 2. It is, oh my God. And not even just him, but honestly, all of these quarterbacks, just like the cost being so low because people are so afraid of it. They're all values. Whatever. In Superflex, this is the cheapest opportunity you have to acquire a quarterback. After this, it is incredibly expensive dealing away draft capital with future picks just to be able. I mean, you'd probably have to send, a couple first rounders just to be able to get like a middling QB2 for your Superflex team. Why on God's green earth would you not take the only person who got day one capital? You're insane if you pass up on that opportunity. Kenny Pickett is a screaming value, and if people want to, overlook it and just have him fall, fine. Let them make that mistake, because I guarantee you, if we have this same conversation looking at it a year from now, we're going to see a lot of people being like, "Oh, Dios mío, why did because it was just I can't do it. I can't." And Dan, like you said, I mean, even without screw it. Even with my homerism at play, I know how good the Steelers offense is. I know how good those pieces are. And, we look at what some of these, and especially, Deontay Johnson over the course of his career, look at what he was able to do with, Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges, and 2 years of a noodle-armed senior citizen throwing him the ball. I mean, we got a young guy that can actually move around. Okay, if I remember correctly, Matt Canada, when he was, offensive coordinator at University of Maryland, he tried to recruit Kenny Pickett. This is not somebody that the offensive coordinator is unfamiliar with. I mean, this, whatever. I don't know. I could keep going on about this forever. I could honestly spend 15 minutes just going off on even more of a rant. Just draft Kenny Pickett. It's so dumb if you let him slide into the second round. And if you are on the clock and he is in the second round, you have to, like, honestly, if you break your phone screen with a Hulk-like force of, that hitting that draft button, like, your cell phone insurance should cover that. Honestly, I think they would understand.
And I tell you, yeah, I can't see why he's going to last into the second round. I really can't, especially in a super flex draft. The way quarterbacks are just so valuable. No, I can't. No. But and then there's the other quarterbacks that went in the 30 range. You got Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Corral. I know Herms, you're a big fan of Matt Corral there in that range. I'm taking flyers. I mean, Malik Willis at number 24. I'm grabbing him because Tannehill is going to be, he's 2 years from free agency. He's a free agent after the 2023 season. Next year, he could be, if Malik Willis, if they see enough in him, I think they could trade him because quarterbacks are being traded in these guys. I mean, Herms, I'm going to start with you. I mean, are these guys screaming values right now? Jumping off what we talked about with Pickett just now.
I mean, unfortunately for me, being the lone man on Corral Island, he went to the worst possible situation. Because I mean, honestly, like Matt, well, in terms of just the uncertainty of the fact that Matt Rule is like clinging on to his job for dear life, and at like the minute. And I'm sure it's going to be week 1. The minute Sam Darnold does something stupid and turns the ball over, whatever, that crowd, of people, in Carolina, they're going to be chanting, just throw in Corral, see what the rookie can do. It's such an untenable situation. I mean, like, theoretically, if Matt Rule does end up getting fired, they make a interesting coaching hire or whatever, and the new regime decides they want to, pick up where, Rule left off in the development of Matt Corral, that could be kind of cool. But like, if Rule loses that job, whoever comes in after them, they have no obligation or connection to Matt Corral. So like, that is what makes that one a little tricky. But Willis and Ridder are fascinating to me, particularly due to the fact that, we know what Tennessee is. We know the type of offense that they like to run. And then we look at Atlanta, Arthur Smith, the former offensive coordinator in Tennessee, it's just like, these are very, similar type situations, similar type styles. And when we look at, Ridder and Willis, and we look at the two starting quarterbacks of these couple teams, Tannehill and Mariota, it's just like, well, these are like the perfect guys to be able to sit these players behind to learn from. Like, that's the cool part, whether or not Ryan Tannehill actually wants to, teach Malik Willis, that was a fun video. But like, because I was so unsure about Desmond Ridder in the pre-draft process, but one of my things was, just like, he's toolsy. It's clear that he's a very good athlete, and it seems like he plays with a lot of heart. I thought Tennessee was going to be a really good landing spot for him, but I mean, like, going to it, it's NFC Tennessee. That's what Atlanta is. You know what I mean? Because it's basically going to be the similar enough scheme and whatnot. They're both in great situations to be molded as toolsy guys sitting behind two quarterbacks who made it in the league, having to figure out how to overcome being toolsy. Like, sure, honestly, wherever they end up going, just take the shot. Because if they don't work out, all you're doing is spending like a late second round pick. It's, like, once you get out of the first round of a rookie draft, I mean, the hit rate on your draft picks aren't, it significantly drops off from that point anyway. So it's just like, yeah, it's quarterback. It's the most expensive position after, the rookie draft. So take the shot now. If it doesn't work, no harm done.
So Dan, we got Sam Howell going off at number 36. We haven't talked about him. He's at Washington right now. Mm-hmm. Is he worth taking a flyer on? Intriguing. He's got the legs, but love to hear your thoughts.
Really depends on, like, if you're like in the third round. Yeah, I'd take in the Superflex. I'd take a shot. I mean, why not? Like, to Herm's point before, this is the cheapest you're ever going to be able to get a quarterback. So, I mean, It's not like he has, in terms of who's in front of him, I don't think Carson Wentz ranks, really high up there on people that we should like worry about. But I don't know. I think that, it was telling that he fell as far as he did. It shows what the league thinks of him. So that does concern me. I thought that he would go, he wasn't my favorite quarterback coming out, but I did think he would go a little higher than he did, a lot higher actually. So the fact that he didn't do that, it gives me pause. But like I said, if it's like in the third round sometime, and then I'm taking, lottery tickets, I might as well, take a shot at him and then see if he hits. Then great, then I have to worry about quarterback.
Yeah, and he's got the Konami code with him. I think he was up around 1,000 yards rushing last year because he had to run for his life a lot of times when his receivers weren't open. So, he has to pick out. He has to be who has been traded by each of his last two teams in the last 2 years. So, the track record is there that there could be an opportunity now. So, we'll see. I did hear an interview with Ron Rivera where he was very emphatic and said that there was no quarterback competition, that Carson Wentz is the starter. So good. That gives Hal a year to learn and not have to be the guy, or that kind of thing. So, Dan, in the 21 to 30 range, we've talked about the quarterbacks, but do you see any sleepers that are non-quarterbacks in this range?
I like Khalil Shakir, who went to Buffalo.
Yes.
I think that they have Crowder, and Diggs and Davis, but I don't think they're really married to Crowder. I think Shakir's skill set works really, 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 really well with what Josh Allen does at quarterback. He was, the draft capital, it's a little lower than I wanted him to be, but I think that. I kind of like compare him to, and I was reading this in like kind of like a Russell Gage kind of guy, someone that isn't, is never going to be, like a superstar and something, but he's just going to give you like consistent production. And I think that in that offense with that quarterback, that's someone that I'd love to take a shot on, where he's going in drafts, because I think the upside for him is really good.
No, I love it. Love it. How about you, Herms? Any sleeper here?
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna echo what Dan said, because I mean, Khalil Shakir is perfectly designed to fill that slot role left behind by Cole Beasley and temporarily filled by Jamison Crowder. But I mean, injuries have kind of derailed large portions of Jamison Crowder's career to date. He's only getting older, so I mean, long term, Khalil Shakir factors into that offense beautifully. But I mean, my guy that I really want to, take the opportunity to talk about, I just got done talking about Atlanta. It's not just Desmond Ridder that has an interesting opportunity. It's running back Tyler Algier as well, because if you look at that depth chart, I mean, well, they already released Mike Davis, and then after that, it's 31 or 32-year-old Cordero Patterson and Damian Williams. I liked Tyler Algier plenty. I mean, he was kind of just in like that, like that blob of like middle tier running backs. It's like, I don't know, we'll see where they land. And the path to relevancy is not really that difficult. I mean, there's very little resistance standing in his way to be able to find himself on the field. And he's, former converted linebacker. I mean, a team doesn't ask you to play linebacker if you're tiny, and even like watching, some, footage in the pre-draft process. I mean, like you could tell like year one after being converted to a running back, I mean, he was still playing a little bit larger, but then year two, like 2 years out after being converted, I mean, like, he reshaped his body to be able to be more, to play the position that he was asked to play. But like, he's a big guy, he can do, a little bit of everything, doing like, I didn't mind his hands as a receiver. I think there were a lot of people who, thought that was one of his greater traits. I don't know that he's necessarily, super great in that area, but he is definitely a capable pass catcher. And, with that scheme that they run, you're going to need a bigger guy to be able to barrel through some folks. So, like, I could definitely see Algier being pretty good. Although I will say, just a little foreshadowing, he's not the only guy I feel really good about in terms of somebody that can just waltz right in and maybe find relevance in a running back room. But I digress. I will save that for later.
All right. Well, And I love Jalen Tolbert, his opportunity. He's number 23. The Cowboys don't have Amari Cooper anymore. You got Michael Gallup coming back from an ACL injury. Really, it's it's CeeDee Lamb and then a couple other guys, but I know that James Washington's in there. But Tolbert, productive receiver at South Alabama. I think he's got an opportunity ahead of him to go forward, get some extra touches. Herms, let's go to number 31 to 40. Elijah Mitchell was going in this range last year, maybe even less. In here who is intriguing to you?
I mean, I really like Jelani Woods a lot. He's somebody that I talked about a lot before the draft, and him landing in Indianapolis. I mean, like, it's just kind of like a weird carbon copy of Mo Alley Cox. So, like, I don't know, that could be interesting, But I mean, I don't know. I gotta be honest, this is not a range of players that I feel particularly good about. It's littered with prospects that I thought would be interesting. It's the flip side of the Algier coin. Like, there are guys here that I'm like, well, if they go to the right spot, this could be kind of neat, but I don't really know that a lot of them did. I know it's kind of antithetical to the point of the question, but I will just volunteer the information of, like, Tyler Beatty going to Baltimore. I was just like, okay, well, we saw what happened I got duped by Justice Hill. Okay, like, I remember that time. It was not that long ago. So just, like, remember how that felt, and then kind of just apply the same logic here. Pierre Strong Jr., I thought I loved him. I really did. But I mean, like, New England, I mean, because if I remember correctly, like, he wasn't even the only running back they drafted. So it's just like, that's going to be frustrating. And then, like, I don't know, like, the next running back I'm, like, super enthusiastic about, honestly, doesn't appear on the Fantasy Pros list, I think, until, let's see, 69. So, like, that if that tells you anything, I won't talk about him here because it's not within the range that you had outlined.
No, go ahead, talk about him,
dude. Abram Smith, another converted, like, played running back in high school, did very well in the state of Texas, goes to Baylor, converts to linebacker, changes back, doing whatever. He's a running back again. I'm a little surprised that his college teammate got drafted and he didn't. Like, that was weird, and Dan, you were down at the Senior Bowl. I mean, like, you got to see a little bit of Abram Smith. I mean, like, I know, like, we talked about it when you came on my show, and, like, I don't know, he was impressive enough. I kind of figured he was going to get drafted, but, like, going to the New Orleans Saints, I mean, like, geez, anybody who, watched Thanksgiving football last year I know I'm one of these people. I trusted it. I was like, Tony Jones. Okay, we'll see how this goes. Horrible. And then, like, Mark Ingram's, getting close to, I mean, like, AARP is probably mailing him a lot of, little catalogs and stuff. So it's like, behind Alvin Kamara, it is wide open. And, like, I get that it's a UDFA deal. It's nothing particularly inspiring, but, like, Abram Smith, dude, I'm willing to, like, we were talking before about, kind of like, Justin Ross. Maybe that could be an interesting thing that you could use with your last pick. My last pick in as many of the drafts as I'm going to be in is probably going to be Abram Smith if I can help it.
Love it. Dan, kind of to sum up the next question, I mean, is there any kind of feeding off of what Herms was saying, is there any later round guy after 40s and 50s that you're really, really kind of intrigued by?
A couple of guys. I'm just gonna name two. One is K. Dotton in Tampa.
Ooh.
I think that there's a good chance that he's going to, whether or not Gronk comes back, is a big question. But they lost Gronk so far. They lost OJ Howard, and Chris Godwin's banged up. So there is a chance for him to start, not start, but, like, receive some playing time early. So I love to see how he does there. And then the other one is Isaiah Pachenko, the Rutgers running back. He went to KC, which we all know. Everyone goes crazy when everyone gets drafted to KC because it's like the Eden of fantasy football. But but I really enjoy watching him. I saw him a lot. I went to every Rutgers home game, unfortunately, and I saw him play there, and he was a really good back. The Rutgers offense was just horrendous. They didn't have a quarterback. So I think that, I think it was a shame that he didn't get drafted as high as maybe he should have been. But I think he definitely has the talent to, make some noise in that backfield. That, after CEH, there's a couple of guys, but I think that, give him a little time in the offense, and he can surprise some people.
No, I love it, and I love the last name Pachenko because it's a Latino name. So we need, we don't have a lot of representation in the NFL other than kickers and occasional offensive linemen. Thank you, Anthony Munoz, Hall of Famer. Herms, I'm gonna. This one's for both of you. Is there any player you're targeting in every draft?
George Pickens, wide receiver now of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh man, and honestly, it was so awkward that they had Chase Claypool go out there to announce that pick, because I was just like, how does it feel to read the name of your possible eventual replacement? And I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and I think that there are a lot of fair arguments to, throw out there for why the pick was made, because it's just like, Trent Baalke ruining the wide receiver market. I mean, who knows what's going to end up happening with Deontay Johnson as he is now walking into the last year of his rookie deal. I feel pretty optimistic that the team's going to re-sign him, though. I mean, he's worth $20 million a year is not too much for Deontay Johnson, in my humble opinion. Everything that I've seen out of watching him, I mean, I referenced it earlier. I mean, everything he's been able to do so far in his career with that level of quarterback play shows you exactly how good he could be, assuming that Kenny Pickett ends up being something really good. So there's that. But the Steelers have that type of receiver they like to take. We've seen it time and time again. Over the course of my entire lifetime watching the Pittsburgh Steelers, I know the type, they go for those guys, little taller, but they got that speed. They got that, going for them. But then also they're not afraid to take chances on some guys that have some red flags, And, worst case scenario, honestly, assuming because there's there's plenty of, highlights, or I don't know, maybe lowlights of George Pickens, just fighting dudes in the end zone, and just as soon as the ball is snapped, just pushing a guy on the ground and just, kind of, getting all macho with it. But worst case scenario, it's Martavis Bryant, which was still somebody who had flashes of relevancy in Pittsburgh there for a little bit. So you're not going to get burned too bad if that ends up happening. But assuming he can, get things worked out for him. I mean, geez, it was a little bit of a, lazy kind of, scouting the helmet comparison by a lot of people, including myself, but I'm going to stand by it. If you squint, you can see a little bit of AJ Green, that's something that's pretty interesting. And also, tying it back full circle. Oh, look at me. Oh, so, wow, I'm good at this. Wow. Kenny Pickett, with the whole maybe realistic middle ground for his career being an Andy Dalton. I thought Andy Dalton and AJ Green were pretty darn good there for a while in Cincinnati. Honestly, fitting two players together in this offense that can do that type of work. I mean, honestly, what's not to like? Yes, I understand the risk is involved, but if it works, I think Claypool is the likeliest to move on of the bunch, because this idea is oh, well, Pickens is just going to replace Deontay Johnson, and then it's going to be Claypool, and it's Pickens and Claypool don't really work as the duo in that system. Schematically, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand where people really drew that conclusion from, but hey, I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life. Just being a Steelers fan, knowing how this team works, this is a tremendous opportunity. And honestly, Pickens, if he had stayed healthy and didn't have some of those character concerns that some people, I'm not worried about it, but some other people are. In a world where none of that happened, I mean, this guy, he would have been maybe the third or fourth receiver off the board.
He's great. He's Greg Cosell's number one receiver.
Yeah, this. Yeah. This guy's incredible. There's honestly, everybody out there, listen to me. Look at Herms. Just draft George Pickens. Do it. Every team, all of them, every single one. Be like me. Do it.
Just not any drafts with you and Herms.
Oh, not with me. No. Any other.
I have to write that down because I'm in a couple of drafts with Herms now.
That's true. You better not do it, man. You better not. I promise, whoever you're going to say, I'll stay away from.
Okay, deal.
You can stay with George Pickens. All right.
Okay. How about you, Dan?
For me, I'm taking Dameon Pierce. I just I got my dynasty. He's my running back number 3 right now. after Hall and Walker. As I said before, I pretty much covered it. It goes into the best situation for a running back. There's no one really realistic to cede work to in that offense. The Davis Mills is developing. They drafted Mechie to go along with Cooks and Collins. They drafted an offensive lineman in Kenyon Green. So they're investing in their offense. So I'm really excited to see, what that looks like, going into year 2 with Davis Mills. So I'm definitely going to pick Dameon Pierce literally everywhere.
I love it.
George Pickens, and I'll take George Pickens, and then Herms can take Pierce, and then we'll just trade after the draft.
There we go. Yeah, there it is. All right, deal.
Bless me, my brother, mis hermanos, for I have sinned. I actually passed on Pierce in our 20-team dynasty league at number 15, and I took Desmond Ridder instead because I thought there was going to be a run on quarterbacks, and it's 20 teams. Quarterbacks are pretty important. But man, friend of the show, amigo of the show, Sam Wagman did not wait. I don't think he waited 2 minutes to take Pierce right after me. So I know he's gonna owe me some beers in Canton for giving him that gift. So mine I'm not gonna elaborate because Herms, you already gave a great Tyler Algier. That's the one. Number 2. And if I could still get him at that point, I think that's too good a price. And I think I've already heard him, Dan, just previewing a question that we still got coming up, is he's a target in 0 RB. So, and I mean, yeah, that one, but, so speaking of which, Dan, who are you targeting as you are one of the gurus of 0 RB in my world?
Thankfully we talked about a couple of these guys. So I'm definitely, targeting Algier. Especially where he's going in these drafts. If he's going as low as the 27th ranked guy, then that's like a smash for me there. Obviously, Dameon Pierce, going where he's going as well. And then one other guy that we haven't really talked about a lot is Amir White.
Oh yes,
the Raiders, declined Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option. It probably isn't like the best move for right now. But if I'm running, a 0 running back, then I'm definitely gonna, a lot of people are scared away by having Jacobs in front of him. But realizing, he had a 4.40, excuse me, and he was behind James Cook at Georgia, so he wasn't as active as we might have liked to be. And speaking, a lot of people are comparing him to Michael Carter, which is funny because we were talking about Michael Carter before. But if you can get that type of guy in the draft, as long as he's going as well, that's another guy where I'm taking a shot at him and seeing where he ends up in the depth chart starting next year after Jacobs leaves.
Awesome. Oh, mis amigos, we've gone over an hour, so I'm gonna see if we can wrap this puppy dog up early, pretty soon. But this wouldn't be Cinco de Mayo without talking about some spirits. Now, I'm not talking about La Llorona, some of the Mexican legends that scare the pants off of us, which we will talk about on a future show. But when we talk about the running back dead zone, but Mexican beers, let's rank our top 3 Mexican beers. Herms, or if you just have a 101, that's yours. Herms, I'm going to let you start.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, not only is the beer good, but Pacifico commercials also have the music of explosions in the sky. So, I mean, just like that combination of things, I mean, obviously that's wonderful. I can also get down with some Tecate. That's pretty good. It's a good beer. And then also specifically Dos Equis Amber. I mean, like it's, that's as a local restaurant, like love the food, doing their whole thing, like also honestly, just like the 101 of just like cultural cuisines. Like honestly, Mexican food, just like right up there. I adore it. But yeah, I will sit down, I will order a glass of the Dos Equis Amber and just go to town on some tacos doing my thing. But like, yeah, those are probably my 3.
Awesome. How about you, Dan?
Well, my go-to beer is Dos Equis, so I have to start with it. That's my 101 like overall. Like, that's such a nice, easy beer to drink. You can drink it anytime in summer, wherever. I like Modelo as well. I think that's a really good beer. And then I actually tried when I was down in Mexico for my wedding, I tried Sol for the first time, and that was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. So that rounds out my top three. That was a perfect like laying by the pool and drinking beer there. So that I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one that you could just. I don't find it very often, and my go-to is Pacifico, so which is what I have here. So Salud. Yeah, and you guys mentioned Modelo. One out here, Estrella Jalisco, which is from the home state that my parents are from. So I love I love to sip that one. It's very similar to Pacifico and Modelo, kind of like the lightness, something that you could just drink all day when it's warm. But how about the tequilas? Dan, what's your favorites on the tequila side?
All right, so for my tequila, I like. Let me bring it up real quick. So there's one I got a couple of years ago. We're at a New Year's party or New Year's Eve party, and my friend actually bought this for me. I had never heard of it before then. It was a Rudo and Technico. It was in this cool like luchador bottle. We all shared drink. It was nice and smooth, but it was strong. It was really strong. But I mean I loved it. It was perfect. I also like El Jimador Reposado. That's
yes.
a nice smooth one. I like to use that one, combining it with other things that goes down really, really, really easily. And then Don Julio Blanco. I mean, you can't go wrong with some Don Julio. I mean, if you're going to do tequila, you got to mention that in there. So those would be my top three.
I love it. I love it. Herms, you got any?
My experience with tequila is being out with friends and somebody offering it as just like, hey, I'm gonna buy a round of tequila shots, and it's just like I never end up knowing what kind of tequila it is. I don't know. It could have been incredibly cheap. It could have been incredibly expensive. I mean, for all I know, I was usually already drunk by that point. So I gotta say, I've drank a lot of tequila, but my memory of what is not exactly there. So I will just say I don't know. Tequila in general is fine.
It's a 101 right there. Dan, you mentioned Don Julio Blanco. I was at a memorial service over the weekend, and we polished off a couple of bottles of that, just sipping it, and it was. I still don't understand how I was able to function the next day. It was really good though. Just kept sipping it like in little doses. It was like, where did the two bottles go? And there's the Don Julio 1942, which if you could ever find, if I've only had it with people who had it where they just grab it from like the back, and that it's like, okay, we're only pouring this very, very small, and you just sip it, don't shoot it, because that one's really expensive. And an old school favorite is Patron Silver. So one of my favorites. But yeah, those can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. I love the lighter side, but just the clear ones a little bit easier to sip on. Sometimes even on ice. You gotta love it. Well, mi amigos, this was a blast. Thank you for celebrating such a festive day, a great day in Mexico's history. Viva Mexico para arriba. Let's close up shop. What do you have to promote? Dan, we'll start off with you.
All right, so I mentioned a little earlier, I just came out with my overall top, I think 30 dynasty rankings. I'm going to be doing, quarterbacks, running backs over the next couple of weeks. So check out that. We'll have a show every week. Every day is draft day with Steffi Smalls. So check that out as well. We have a great time. We actually did a rookie mock draft 2 rounds the other day, and all the fun stuff we're doing over at Champions Round.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Yeah, you guys are killing it. They're doing a great job. Herms, mi amigo.
CC, yes, of course. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at HermsNFL right there. It's on the screen. There you go. I tweet a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's about football, sometimes it's not. But if you just really want to narrow in on the football stuff, I contribute over at Fantasy Pros. That is where you can find my written work. Super fun. And even if I'm not writing, a lot of the photos, a lot of the editing work, I help other people contribute to their articles as well. So, I mean, honestly, just check out anything that comes out on that website. It's a fabulous place. Also, The Lateral Show. It is my podcast where, I kind of just yell and scream, kind of like, I did on this show, but I say bad words. So if you're interested in this type of vibe, but you really want profanity to go with it, I got you. And then check out the Devi Royale. I mean, I brought on as the new podcast producer. I'm bringing my engineering talents to the group. A bunch of really good guys over there. I mean, I mean, come on. You got Jeff Bell, you got Kevin Coleman, you got Christian Williams. I mean, like it's a good bunch of dudes. If you're into the college football side of this stuff and you really want to just increase your knowledge, because I mean, think about it. If you listen to shows like the Debbie Royale, you wouldn't have to do nearly as much cramming once the season is over to prepare for your rookie draft. So I mean, hey, it's a wonderful added benefit. So definitely check them out. It's a YouTube show as well. Find it wherever you can on Twitter at the Devi Royale. It's a super, super great thing. Yeah, that's what I do. It's how I live, man. Go Steelers, go Cinco de Mayo. Big fan of the holiday. I'm thinking about making some beef enchiladas. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Ooh,
Because and also just very quickly,
Sabroso.
I want to say, I went out to Colorado to visit our friends Jen and Nate Paulveld. I got taken to this little local spot out in Denver, and I'll tell you what, the green chili out in Denver, I mean, you got to be prepared for that heat. But I mean, if you can handle it, and you can, I'll tell you what, it's probably the best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. I mean, I'll tell you, like I said, Mexican food 101, just like straight up. Enjoy the holiday. Make sure you consume as much of that goodness as possible, because there's no better food in the world.
Yeah, Colorado, very underrated for Mexican food because, think about it. Colorado in Spanish is Colorado red. So love it. Love it. Oh, yeah. Familia, otra vez. Thank you so much. And make sure one more time, go to fantasypoints.com. So use that promo code Familia22, Familia22, get you 10% off on your subscription, including the NFL Prospect Guide to help you with those NFL rookie drafts. And again, make sure you're following me at Jorge Martin 17. Special thanks to Anchor for putting our independent podcast out into the Familia community. They got us on Anchor, on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get it. FamiliaFFB.com. I'm going to have some articles coming out to just kind of close up shop on the NFL draft and start getting us closer to redraft season a little bit and a little bit dynasty stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's so cool. And remember, Familia FFB at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Estamos aquí para ustedes. Otra vez, everybody. Feliz Cinco de Mayo. Everybody celebrate safely, get home safely, because todos somos familia. Salud.